Hi, everybody. Welcome to this special one-off microbiology session, which is microbiology at Christmas. And I'm going to give you a little, an interesting story of a aspect of Christmas that you may not have thought of before. I've got my Christmas jumper on ready, and we can kind of sit back and relax. Nothing here is going to be covered in your AMK. It's very much a kind of here there's a bit of interest. So I want you to imagine that you were speaking to an alien who's just arrived at the planet Earth for the first time, and you're going to explain to them the story of Father Christmas at Christmas, a basically a supernatural being, a man, if you like, who flies around the world on magic reindeer, dropping presents in down people's chimneys. I mean, just saying that out loud, it sounds kind of weird and a bit trippy. And if you think about it in terms of it being a bit trippy, it may well have a certain psychedelic origins, and that's where the microbiology comes in. So this holiday, I'd like you just to keep a little eye out for something. And when you're kind of looking at various Christmas scenes, Christmas decorations, you may from time to time spot nice little kind of festive scenes like this, where an appearance of a funny red mushroom pops up from time to time. It's a little red mushroom with kind of a little spotty hat on it. And once you've kind of seen it, you actually start to spot it in all sorts of different places. In kind of often it's seen in like quite kind of vintage Christmas cards and scenes, but you do see occasional Christmas decorations. And again, if you think about it, it's a slightly odd thing to do and have a mushroom at Christmas. And why is it there, and what are its origins? It's a little bit out of place as well. What it's referring to is this thing. It's a mushroom that's called Amanita muscaria, or the fly agaric mushroom. And you'll see it usually around autumn time. Lots of mushrooms and fungi emerge at that time of the year because plants are starting to shed material. And fungi are brilliant at breaking down compounds. They're said to be saprophytic. So that means that they grow on dead and dying matter. Also, over the holiday time, you might go for a little walk, maybe in some woods. Keep a lookout. The places that you'll see fallen trees and leaves on the ground are the places that you'll find the fungi. They grow on dead matter. And the same is also true of your body. If you think about where fungi generally grow, you find lots on the skin. And what they're doing is they're growing on the dead keratin layers on the surface of the skin. Fungi are amazing. They're fantastic at breaking down compounds. This tree that I've got on the screen here is comprised of amazingly complex and strong carbohydrates and polysaccharides. It's the thing which allows them to live and grow and stand for hundreds of years. They can stand up against the strength of wind. They can survive hurricanes. But they can't survive fungal enzymes, which are capable of being secreted and breaking down all these compounds. And they have really incredible uses in terms of potentially breaking down pollution or generating useful biofuel potentially from these kind of compounds, or from these sort of environments and sites. And fungi, they're not plants or animals, they're actually their own kind of separate kingdom of life, area of life. And they are very good, not just at breaking down molecules, but also making molecules. They're very good at making what are called natural products. A good example of a natural product made by fungi is penicillin. So the story of penicillin, of a mold called penicillium that was producing some kind of toxin, which was later purified in Oxford by Florian Chain, is a good example of a product made by fungi. But it's one of an absolute countless array of different compounds made, which have all sorts of different medical uses. And fungi have, for a long time, had an association with psychoactive drugs, things which are useful or have been used in terms of recreational drugs, but also things which actually are medically useful that potentially could be prescribed to treat various conditions. And this is where this story kind of comes back together again. So this particular mushroom produces a psychoactive compound called psilocybin. And these are one of several mushrooms that can sometimes be called magic mushrooms. let's put all this stuff together. These mushrooms grow normally at the base of pine trees. They form a kind of a symbiotic relationship with trees called a mycorrhiza. So under the soil, the fungi will grow, and they will come into a range of fungal of plant roots. The plant will fix carbon, and the fungi kind of grow on some of the sugars, and in return they'll do other beneficial things. So they're very good at kind of collecting and collating metals that the tree may need. They're very good at warding off infections for the tree as well. But they're prized, or they were prized in northern cultures by shaman who would use these mushrooms after they've been dried recreationally, and they would use them also from a kind of a spiritual point of view. They would have these psychedelic experiences, and they would commune with the spirits, with ancestors who were long dead, and they would use these things. They were very prized gifts, essentially. But they're also prized by reindeer. Reindeer can't get enough of these mushrooms. They will actively seek them out, and they will eat them. And there are, in fact, stories of reindeer eating these mushrooms, and they would pee out the psychoactive compounds, amongst other things, because they're water soluble. So they would pee out, and the shaman would drink the urine of the reindeer, and they would have hallucinogenic trips. And the idea that the reindeer with Father Christmas fly through the sky is probable, that there is a theory that actually comes from the fact that what that was a record of are the hallucinogenic trips that people experienced when they ate these mushrooms. It's not just about that as well. So in places, maybe not necessarily in the UK, but in kind of the northern latitudes where you find these mushrooms growing, obviously you get a lot of snow at Christmas. And if you were delivering gifts such as your a magic mushroom, so that people could kind of commune with spirits, you're not going to get in through the front door because it's going to be blocked by snow. So the only place that you can really get in is to drop gifts in down the chimney. So the idea that Father Christmas enters your house through the chimney is a reference that shaman would drop off these dried mushrooms to allow people to have these spiritual experiences at home, and they would do it by down the chimney. So we've already got kind of the reference of gifts at Christmas, of gifts down the chimney, and of flying reindeer coming from these experiences. And actually, this kind of these mushrooms were used quite a lot, and they've found their way into other parts of popular culture, which occasionally come up, and you don't even really, at the time, you may not even recognize them. One example is Alice in Wonderland, which is thought to have been influenced. It's a little bit of a controversial one because some people say it's not true, by Lewis Carroll, who allegedly may have taken some of these magic mushrooms. But certainly the appearance of some kind of magic mushroom is in the book, because Alice eats the magic mushroom. And in fact, the fact that she's given advice from a talking caterpillar is also something that is arguably just a little bit trippy. And this story in itself has gone on to influence other things. So if you've ever played Super Mario Brothers, you'll know that Mario eats a mushroom and grows taller when he eats a mushroom, which again is a reference back to Lewis Carroll. And again, it's a bright red mushroom with a white spotty hat on it. So it's all pointing back to this thing called Amanita muscaria. And again, you'll find other references in popular culture to this thing as well. It all sounds great, and before you start thinking to yourself, wonderful, well, I know what I'm adding to my Christmas list now. Fungi are packed full of other psychoactive and indeed pretty poisonous substances, which I would absolutely not recommend taking. So, for example, you'll have seen just on the same image, lots of immunosuppressants, lots of carcinogens, lots of poisons. In fact, with the Amanita muscaria, they are quite unpredictable in what they actually produce. And there are lots of examples of people having really bad experiences with taking fungi, which kind of reflects this fact. These are living organisms with the capability of producing all these different things, but exactly how they do it is very much determined by their environment that they grow in, the temperature, the trees, the kind of micro environment as well. But it's really interesting, and I know that you'll come back to kind of learn a little bit more, or a lot more, about psychedelic drugs and recreational drugs to the leaner. But if you're interested, something that I would recommend, or a person I would recommend, is David Nutt, who is a pharmacologist, and he was previously a drugs advisor to the UK government, and has produced a range of different literature and books and that are very readable and very thought-provoking, and I'd recommend that you check them out. Anyway, so that's the little story of microbiology at Christmas, psychedelic mushrooms, which may have influenced the story of Father Christmas flying around the world and delivering presents using reindeer that were either tripping on mushrooms, or that the story of people that recorded this stuff that were tripping on mushrooms. We cover more of this stuff in year 2. We cover mycology, which is the study of fungi, in year 2. But I hope that was quite interesting. Merry Christmas, everyone.